Welcome to By the Streams, a resource from Manchester House of Prayer. Our heart is that we would each have a real relationship with God, being like the trees in Psalm 1, planted by the streams of living water, that our roots would go down deep. In this episode, we conclude our conversation with Corey Stark, where we just talk about some of the practical ways that we can build authentic community. Enjoy. So let's just get practical for a second then. Okay, so the call that you're putting out there is to be pursuing joy, is to be loving one another. Okay.
Absolutely.
What does that look like practically? Like, I know we all know conceptually, that we should love one another, but like, what can we be doing? What can we be doing to cultivate that in ourselves? Where actually we are pursuing loving one another, even when we don't, previously maybe we haven't wanted to. We know that we should. Like, what can we actually do to start to cultivate that in ourselves?
Okay, so by cultivating this culture of joy, I just want to highlight that it is going to, number one, it is going to create belonging, which is necessary in community.
Yeah.
It is to accelerate maturity, which is another thing that we really need to talk about at some point, what true godly maturity looks like, because most people haven't studied it, don't even know. And the third thing is that it will foster recovery from past and present traumas that people have experienced, because we all have, and we need to remove those blocks. But this is what community would actually do. And some ways that we can just very simply begin to cultivate this in an intentional way, because it doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah.
Whether it's in your family, it might just be, you guys. That's what we're doing in our family. I mean, we have been so intentional about cultivating a culture of joy in our family, or whether it's in a house of prayer setting or in a megachurch setting, doesn't matter, is number one, all of the things that you can think of creatively, all the strategies that God will give you, all will communicate that you are glad to be with somebody, that you're delighted that they're there, that they matter, that they're there, they're wanted, you enjoy them, and that they're special, that there's something special about them. So again, you have to really feel that, and that's where love comes in. But assuming that you do, then all of these things fall under that category. So number one, I would say slow down. You've got to slow down. You've got to look people in the eye. I'm amazed that when I go out, to the store or the grocery store, and not just during this strange time, but prior to this, how people wouldn't even look me in the eye. They look down, or they will just hand you your receipt without acknowledging that you're there, and so there's something about slowing down, looking them in the eye.
You need to come back to Manchester. We all look each other in the eye and smile on the streets.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a beautiful place.
That's good. Yeah, I think the opposite of Manchester would be like New York City then, man. You're like, you're an invisible man there. But we want to use our nonverbal facial expressions communicate more than our words. So it's what we're saying. We want to live. This might be kind of a new language, but I want you to really remember this, and this will help you practice it, is to live present in your face. So the feelings that you have about a person, intentionally put those feelings in your face and let your face communicate to them how you feel.
So what you don't want us doing is this.
Yeah, that's hard. That's kind of hard, man. You're having a conversation with somebody and they're looking down at their phone, or looking away, or waving at somebody else. It's like, wait, what am I?
But I think this is one of the problems that we're facing right now, is because we're having to do everything on like Zoom or FaceTime or some sort of video platform, firstly, when we use a platform like this, we're not looking at each other's eyes because we're looking
Right.
at where we are on the screen and the camera's up there.
That's right.
So we're having to get used to looking at people without actually looking at each other.
That's right.
But also, we're on a screen that's a couple of foot away from me, and then so it makes you really small.
Yeah.
And also, you can't see that my phone's in my hand.
That's right. I can't. What are you doing?
And so, you're talking and I'm not listening. I'm just texting, or I'm checking my emails, or, I'm distracted by the things that are happening in my house around me, or a lot of ambulances pass by our house, and it's, it really takes discipline and intentionality to engage in something like this.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I think that's, I think that is probably, as important a lesson in any of it actually is recognizing that it costs us something, that there's
Absolutely.
effort on our part. Yeah. And so are we willing to invest in the relationships around us, or are we not bothered? And that's the choice, I suppose, that we're having to make, is, are we willing to invest in relationship even when it isn't necessarily always that easy to get started? Or, like I'm an introvert. I really don't like meeting new people because I find it difficult. Not that I don't like meeting people, but I can find it difficult. But what I always find is, if I choose to get over myself, yes, I'll probably have 3 or 4 awkward conversations with people, but then I'll start to actually get to know them, and there's value to it. But it takes effort on our part. I think that's really, really key. So sorry, yes, so slow down, eye contact.
Yeah. Be present, live present in your face.
Present in your face, yeah.
Another thing would be to actually use words to communicate how you really do feel about people, because you might have all these great feelings about me, but like taking for example the last conversation that you and I had, I wanted to be very intentional to tell you that I so value our relationship. I love you. You're not just like any of the hundreds of houses of prayer that I've gone to, that there's a relationship that you and I and Becky have built that I really value, and I appreciate that about you. And so that's what I mean, and how did that impact your heart when I said that?
It made me feel good on the inside. No, I came off that call, and I went and I spoke to Becky, and I felt built up, because I know that if you're going to say that to me, you mean it. You're not just, there's people that just say the right things. They'll say nice things to make you feel good, but I know that's not what you're doing. I know that it's authentic and it means something. And so I came away from that call just really encouraged and built up relationally.
Right.
I suppose you could say that I was full of joy.
Right.
So yeah, no, for sure.
Joy with you. Yeah, and so that's what I mean. It's like I didn't have to say that. I could have assumed you knew that, which I think a lot of us do. We assume the other person knows how we feel.
Yeah,
just like in your relationship with your wife, it's like, I don't know if it's the same with you and Becky, but with Meredith and I, Meredith has had to really work with me over the last 25 years of saying, listen, I know you have a lot of great stuff in your heart that you feel towards me, but it would help me to know it if you used words. So I think it's important we say it, and
yeah, no, that's really good.
And just like with prayers, I've been finding that instead of logging it away, oh, I need to pray about that, and then I never get back to it. Yeah. If I think about it, I'm going to pray about it right there in the moment,
Yeah.
If I think of something good that I want to communicate to my wife or my kids, I'm going to say it right in the moment so I don't forget about it. So I think that's important. Another thing would be using physical touch when it's appropriate, because physical touch really communicates so much. And I'm talking about, appropriate touch, but like a hand on the shoulder or a side hug, or when holding somebody's hand, any of those things, when you want to communicate that, man, I'm with you. Like I love that you're here. I'm standing with you through this. That's important. We can't shrink back from using physical touch. And I feel like so many things in our world tries to get us away from it. But man, the church is supposed to be different. Jesus touched lepers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And so we can't be afraid to touch people. So I think that's important. Another thing is learning how to ask good questions and not just talk at people,
Yeah.
but ask questions. Genuinely listen.
Yeah, that's the key to being able to ask good questions, though, because I think we often will ask the question, "Oh, you okay? Everything all right?" And it's like that
How you
doesn't
doing?
mean anything. Like, how do you answer that question? It's so vague.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
No,
then you've got a choice. You either just go, "Yeah, I'm good," or you get into it, and someone goes, "Oh no, I
yeah.
was just saying
I'm just
hello."
reading you.
And
Right.
I think actually listening to what someone else is saying is what enables us to ask questions,
I would agree. Yeah, it's so good.
to actually find out about someone. You have to listen to what they're saying and then ask them about the things that they're saying. You can't just go, okay, tick, my next question is going to be, what do you think about this? Like there has to be actual, like, active listening.
That's right. Yeah, and getting to know what their goals are, getting to know their story, what they've gone through, like what they're hoping to accomplish in their life, some of their struggles. I mean, these are all things that draw us closer together. And
Yeah.
and then just one other thing. And again, there's a lot of things, but another thing would be to surprise somebody with a gift that says, "I was thinking about you and I knew that you would love this." And it could be something simple as a note, a prayer, a book, a journal, just whatever. But it's just those things that communicate to them that you matter, you're important. I was thinking about you. I'm so glad that you're part of my life.
So the last time you came to Manchester, you brought with you I don't know if you remember, you brought with you some Jack Stack barbecue sauce,
Oh yeah, I did.
because you know the way to my heart. It's Jack Stack.
Jack Stack. Yeah, that's right, man. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. Wow, good job, Corey. You did
Yeah,
good.
and
That was
that
awesome.
was before.
Before I even knew.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
by doing some of these things, and to your desire to create opportunities that allow those kind of things to happen, God's going to give you all kinds of creative ideas to give an opportunity. But as you teach your people, this is what we're going after. This is why we're doing it. Then you give them an opportunity and let them just do it. I think you're
Yeah.
going to have a lot more success, than just hoping it accidentally happens, because it may sometimes, but a lot of times it won't.
Yeah.
Um, but by doing that, you are going to answer all those things that most people want to fix. You're going to have more engagement, right? You're going to have higher attendance because people want to be where people want them to be.
Yeah.
You're going to have um, more engagement because the thing that hinders people being engaged is fear, or lack of validation. And so when they feel seen and known and people are behind them, they're going to step out and they're going to engage at a whole different level because they have confidence, because it's a safe environment of people that love them.
Yeah, that's good.
You're going to build deeper relationships because obviously people want to know and be known, and that those deeper relationships are going to foster transparency. They're going to foster vulnerability, and believe it or not, and this is another thing that you and I should talk about at some point for sure, is that it is going to really demand mature conflict resolution. Because when
Hmm.
you're at that level of relationship, the number one thing that blows churches and ministries apart is conflict. And if you're at that level of relationship, uh, you're going to get really good at resolving conflicts because the relationships are already so tight. We can't go another day with this being the way that it is. And so that's a great byproduct of it. And so there's so many things that it answers just by cultivating this kind of a culture of joy.
Yeah, and I think one thing that springs to mind as well is if this is the environment we're creating, actually it breaks down some of that top down like leadership kind of structure, because it isn't about a person, it's actually about all of us caring about one another. And
Right.
actually creates a point where actually we don't need to be strategizing how we're going to create community, because what we're doing is we're teaching and empowering people and releasing them to actually just love one another.
Yeah.
And I think that's been one of the really interesting things that we've seen over the last year and a half as our team has grown, particularly, is just watching certain people step up in their some people are good at meeting people, like good at making friends with people, and some people are it takes more effort just because of
Right.
their personality types and their communication giftings and all of that kind of stuff. But just seeing people kind of come out of themselves to bring people in, it's been a real joy to my heart, just seeing some of the people that are on our team just loving one another well,
Right.
and just the journey that we've all been on together. It's been it's been a beautiful thing. I had one more kind of thought on it all, but I feel like we've hit quite a lot of stuff in the last 56 minutes that we've been talking.
Wow.
But I had my only other thought was how do we encourage people to go after this kind of stuff when actually it isn't their natural personality type? Like, what's your take on that?
Um, Actually, that's a really simple one because I feel like I've experienced this myself a little bit because I am a high introvert. It takes a lot of effort for me in the past to engage with people,
Mhm.
and so after engaging with people, I would need alone time, downtime, a lot. And so the Lord has really matured me in that area of my life. But the easiest way to get anyone to desire something new is by allowing them to experience it for themselves. And so, like anything in the kingdom, when the leader says, we should do this, we must do this, it never works. But when the leader says, guys, this is what I've experienced, follow me, and then you bring them into it and you engage with them in a way that they experience it from you, then there's a real impartation, there's a real transfer of, oh, this is what joy's like, what I feel when I'm with Michael. I love this, right? I was made for this. I was built to be a joyful person. They're going to naturally, you don't even have to like keep up with them on it. I mean, they're going to naturally go after it because that's what they were actually created to be, a person of joy. In fact, so much so, I'll tell you this one last neuroscience thing. I mean, I'm just so geeked out about the neuroscience. It's like blowing my mind. No pun intended. But is that you're in the so I'm going to use big language because some of the people that are listening probably know some of this stuff, and those that don't, you're going to get to know it. So your right, so the right side of your brain, your right orbital, so it's right behind your eye, your right orbital prefrontal cortex, that's a part of the brain. That is your identity center. That's where when you think of you and everything that makes up you, it resides right in there. The right orbital prefrontal cortex. Your identity center is the exact same place that your joy center is. And so it's true to say that you are most like you when you're experiencing joy, when you're living from
Wow.
the place of joy. So that's what I mean when you begin to experience joy and it starts to light that area of the brain up. It is your true identity. You were made to be a person of joy. And so you don't have to do a lot of convincing when they experience it. The key is just getting them to experience it. And the best way, like any way of teaching is that you have to live in it yourself. It has to be real and authentic for you, and then you can share it with them through experience. And man, you guys are off.
It's good. It's really good stuff. Thanks, Corey. Thanks for joining us for this episode. We pray that you would encounter the Lord through what's been shared. To find out more about who we are, head to mhop.org.uk or find us on Facebook or Instagram at mhopuk. For information about By the Streams, head to mhop.org.uk/by the streams. Bless you.